Alright guys, I'm going to do a poetry reading tonight. I don't know if you guys know, April is Poetry Month, and I'm going to read something from my first book, which is Eclectic Poems by April. And I picked two poems, and my reasoning behind picking these two poems was based on a movie that came out recently on DVD, and I was able to rent it and watch it, and it was called Shadow People, and it had Allison Eastwood in it and some other actors in it. And if you've seen it, it's just like its name. It's basically talking about the subject of shadow people. And it seems to be, I like the way it was filmed. It was filmed using, which I've seen a wave of this in a lot of the DVDs, a lot of the movies recently. They use clips from YouTube, reviews and stuff like that here on YouTube. And like a documentary kind of fashion, and like testimonials and stuff like that. And then they have an actual, the actual movie. And I really liked the way they did it. And it was the first movie that I'd ever seen that actually discussed this topic. And as everyone may know, people who know me know that I am kind of fascinated with anything that has to do with the metaphysical, religion, folklore, mythology, and a lot of my poetry discuss that and tackles those topics and my interest in it. And I've read and watched videos, just like a lot of people who are like myself, who are fascinated with it. And usually when people are fascinated with things like that, they have also experienced things and they're trying to look for answers, which I think would fit me very well. Anyway, when the Shadow People movie came out, of course, I got it and I watched it, but I also remembered I actually did my poetry book some years ago, several years ago, especially my first one. And I remember I did a poem I entitled it Shadow People, and I'm going to read it for you now. But now that I'm reading it, when I read it myself before I'm going to do it now, I kind of don't think the name really fits the topic, but I'll let you be the judge. Okay, the name of the poem is Shadow People. You had me fooled. You look like one of us, but clearly you aren't. Frozen eyes and painted on plastic smiles. Your luminous big black eyes. You can change at will. You revealed yourself to me intentionally or by pure mistake. I'll never know. What will be your next move? And this is called Shadow People. But is that a clear estimation or description of shadow people? The big black eyes? No. And now I'm kind of wondering, why did I call it Shadow People? That's a description of a different kind of being. And I cannot think right now what it is. I know that this poem, Shadow People, and the description of the people in it, or the person in it, was very real. It was something that I experienced some years ago, and someone that I encountered, and it was a gentleman, it was a guy, that I dated for a very brief time, and his eyes, I can't describe his eyes and just the bizarreness of this person. And I started to wonder, like years after, was that even a real person? I don't want to get too deep here on the video, but there are a lot of things out there that I believe we just don't have logical, scientific answers for. There are a lot of gray areas there. But this poem, Shadow People, was based upon my experience with this one particular person. Okay, now I'm going to read the story Corners, the poem Corners, which is actually should be called Shadow People instead, but it's called Corners. So you're getting a treat here. I'm reading two of my poems. Okay, the poem is called Corners. Shadows dance in the corners of my vision, shifting, twisting, supple moving, rustling even, expanding, always watching. Corners. Now this poem here, which should have been called Shadow People or Shadows, and I'm not really clear on why I called the other one Shadow People, because actually there's a name for those people, and I've read some blogs and stuff on people that have come in contact with people with no whites to their eyes, and they give them a certain name. I'm not sure it was Shadow People. And usually in these testimonials or these blogs or these videos, the people usually describe them as children. They're not called Shadow People. I'm trying to question my own ideal for this. But the other one, Corners, tackles the shadow people. Usually these shadows take shape, and they are the silhouettes of people, of men, of women. A lot of people describe them just like in the movie, like they're wearing a hat, and they even refer to him as the Hat Man. I've never had that experience with the Hat Man. It's usually wisps of shadows, small, big, all different sizes, and they've even taken the form of people, but never the Hat Man. So I just wanted to help remind you guys that April is Poetry Month. If you haven't seen the movie Shadow People, and if you have an interest in such things, to see it. I also want to share two of my poems, which one I think is ill-titled, and it is on a different subject, not exactly Shadow People, but it is called Shadow People. And the other one is called Corners, which should be reversed, the titles. But those are two poems from my first book, Eclectic Poems by April. And you can get that on Amazon. You can get that on Barnes & Noble and eBay. And there are many, many others in which you can enjoy and check out my poems. So have a good night.